Little Hand says it's time to rock and roll.
Bring the noise.
Five, four, three, two, one, go.
Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Etims podcast. My name is Desi, and tonight we have a new recruit. He goes under the moniker Broadsword when he's writing for the site, but tonight we welcome for the first time Andy. Welcome, Andy, for joining. And tonight we don't have Hector Bandido. He's taking a rest to watch some little game involving some small clubs called Liverpool and Man United over a fine Rioja, no doubt, in his Mount Vernon mansion. But we have that bloke from Stoke. Ralph, are you on?
How you doing?
Ralph, we'll go straight to it because it's been one of those crazy times. As always, the big question of the day: what the hell was Charity Dingo thinking about in Emmerdale stealing a Ferrari just as she got out of prison?
The only program I watch in Yorkshire is that Happy Valley.
Don't start, because I'm literally just catching up with season 2.
Murderer is somebody from an episode of Tiger, and it'll be
it has to be on. Andy, did you watch that Happy Valley? Oh, honestly, I don't know how happy a time you have during your working day. Let's slightly hint at that. But I would say if you want to see how people can lead an even more depressed life, then Happy Valley is a must-watch. It is the most depressingly yet uplifting show it's ever been, I would say, Ralph. If it came from America, it would have more fans than Breaking Bad. Honestly, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. And it's just...
Yeah. Plus, I do a lot of filming outside, and I've walked around that area. And it's a great wee place. It's like Scotland.
University. I was at Huddersfield Uni.
As well.
And I kept saying that to my wife. I was like, I wonder if that's in Huddersfield. Then eventually they said it was Halifax. But it just looked like every small village that I'd ever passed through or woke up in that area.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Huddersfield to get a university.
Did I Yates's pub right across the road with a cracking Indiana Jones pool table out, Indiana Jones pinball machine? I was quite happy.
Well, I want to know what an Indiana Jones pool table
looks like. The reason that's in my head also is Top of the Pops from 1981 was on tonight, and it was not Jimmy Savile, it was Simon Bates, and Smokey Robinson's I Don't Care was at number 6, I think, and that was the first time I remember, 1981, seeing a non-green or non-blue pool table. He had a pink pool table, Smokey Robinson, in the video. See, 34 years later, suddenly seeing that pool table again. Happy days. Anyway, I mentioned Charity Dingo and her Ferrari escapades. This is a tenuous link, Ralph, for an excellent piece of work. Obviously, they do loads of excellent work by the Celtic Charity Foundation. And they passed a document to yourself, or basically to us and around the rest of the Celtic community, a nice PDF document heralding some of the fine work they've been doing. I know you were impressed, Ralph.
Oh, well, it's about time they started telling people what they were doing. The whole charity thing, see, if it's you that's given to charity, you don't tell anybody, you keep it to yourself and it's your own wee thing. But when it's a club that's founded in charity and has that as one of its mission, what do they call them, mission statements, then you need to tell people you're doing it. Because the more that you do it, the bigger it grows. And people that are looking for a wee bit of help, especially these days, with your food banks taking root everywhere, people that are looking for help can maybe turn to them and they can do something in the community, and that's what a club is all about. I don't want to dwell. I'm not too happy and comfortable with this idea of the corporate monster that Celtic's become. And it's just, not only is it good to see they're doing the work, but good to see that they're telling people about it. And the more
I remember the last time Jeanette Finlay, before she managed to escape, I remember the last time she was on, she was also, I think it was that, it's been one of the times she's been on anyway, and she was talking about how realistically, even though it's a Celtic charity foundation, and apologies if this comes out incorrectly, because it's not meant to, obviously, she was saying that it is our foundation, so to speak, and it is our money that's going towards all these things, so to speak, so it's really the supporters foundation. It's not the club. It's not something for the club to go, oh, look at how well we're doing and we're so charity minded. At the heart of it is actually the fans that are the keeping this kind of thing going and getting the money through for the foundation to do all these good things, which is obviously great.
I think I think that's part of the reason why they maybe haven't been so out there saying, "Oh, look at us, we've got massive turnover, but look, we're still doing something for poor people as well." I think there's an element of sensitivity about how you go about it. I mean, I don't work in that field. I don't know much about PR as such, but I'd imagine that's kind of their thinking at some stage. We don't want to be seen to be overly brash about it. By the way, look, we took in 13 million for Van Dijk or whatever it was, and we're giving beans to people whoever want it. There's got to be some kind of disconnect there between, as you were saying, the corporate Celtic and this aspect of Celtic. And you're right to say foundation. It's the fans. It's not directly the club. It's the fans. So.
Yeah, it's difficult to get that fine line between the two, and I think they've went down the right alleyway. We're putting it into a newsletter and distributing it to websites and maybe the Celtic View as well. I'm not sure. I can't really speak for that because I don't read it anymore. But if they're doing it in-house, if you like, to the support, then the support can read it. There's no need, like you say, for it to be in the papers and splashed all over that. But just to let us know that we're doing something, if that's not to make it sound like we're doing it ourselves too much, but just to let everybody know that, yeah, you're doing this and this is what we're doing. And if you want to help out, you can help
I know
out.
We'll come on to the PR side in a second, Ralph, but it's strange. We've kind of had a chat before about this and kind of comments in the diary about those famous yellow jackets for the Paradise Windfall. Have you met anyone in the superstore yet? Have you heard anyone in the superstore asking for a famous yellow jacket like they wear for the Paradise Windfall sales? That's actually part of the advertising now. The Paradise Windfall. Look out for the famous yellow jackets. Is this the Tour de France? Is it from Croy? Oh, come on.
No, it's not from Croy. Oh, no. He's won it twice. He's still not got one of the yellow jackets. It's a very...
Maybe you have to win it 6 times.
You know, you won it 3 times. It's astonishing. I mean, I think that's what happens is when they write the match day experience up for the website, there's maybe about half a dozen of them sitting around a table with blank bits of paper in front of them and a bottle of water, and it's, right, what can we put in? And obviously they'll go through an awful lot of stuff, and they'll come down to things like the famous yellow jackets, which is so cringe. And then there'll be the shops open at 9 o'clock, and you can buy Celtic tops in there. And their lack of imagination and the lack of thought that seems to go into it.
Sorry.
It's bizarre.
Keep that thought in mind, Ralph. Just to bring Andy up to speed here. And what Ralph is basically saying is they never think of where are the guys going to go for a piss, especially if they've travelled from Stoke with some kids in the van. This is the regular Ralph rant at the last toilet facilities at Celtic. Carry on, Ralph. On you go.
well, I was.
Yeah. When the kids were
said a bottle of water in the table because it sounded like it was water.
I was reading them going, yeah, you know what happens when you drink water, don't you? You need a piss.
When the kids were wee, there was nowhere to take them, so we used to have to go to the ground at 1:45. I'm making up for that now, right enough. I'm not going into the ground until 5:10 when everybody else is away.
That's what I was going to say. You're not even trying anymore. You're just staying in turnstiles or whatever it is, waiting for the singer to come on. The singer to come back.
Do you know, there's 3 of us. There's 3 of us that have been going up for about 20 years now, right? And it's about 4 years since all 3 of us actually made it into the ground and could talk about the game afterwards. For all kinds of bizarre reasons. We've never actually been to a game together for about 4 years. And we've travelled up at least once, maybe twice a month. It's absolutely pathetic. And I sat in the pub because it was raining. And it didn't empty. You know how it usually empties about 2:45 or something? and then you've got an idea that maybe like you should get across the road, and it didn't empty. And we looked up at the TV screen, and it was 0-0 at the half time. You know that BT Rolling Sports thing or whatever it is, or ITV, and it's like 0-0 at half time. We looked at each other and thought, "Oh wait, now we've ordered beef burgers."
And
So
they won
we
the
just
beef
stayed
burgers,
there.
mate. They won
The
the
state we were, the state we were, we remember the game anyway.
Right.
So is this your reflection on the match day experience then, Ralph? That's how bad it's got. You have to go into the toilet and a pub and you end up staying there.
Aye, and if you've got the kids with you, they have to sit
the
outside.
Kerrydale street now, that's open apparently.
I've always...
We're
not really welcoming.
You can't order a beef burger in there at like 20 to 4 and then look up, seats nothing each and go, oh, you know what?
See, once again, Celtic are missing
a trick. I
mean, I'm always 2 steps behind. The captain's mail's not what it used to be.
Last time we all wear the t-shirts for CSC t-shirts when we go to the game, so as we can, like, if lost, please return to, yeah? And we were in the Kerrydale suite. I wasn't at this particular game. We were in the Kerrydale, and there's a DJ or something on, or somebody playing records or whatever. And one of our lot, I'm not going to tell you which one, but one of our lot was messing about under the table and found a plug, and unplugged the whole lot, and the whole lot crashed, didn't it? So we're not really welcome in there either. There's no one who's under 50 years of age as well. And I really don't think we should be out with it. Adult supervision.
Take it while you're at a Stoke. I can see why Happy Valley looks like a comedy to you, Ralph. So this is your reflection on the match day experience then?
Right, yeah, instead of hanging around in the pubs that are full of fungus and damp and dripping water, they should have something that you can take the kids into, maybe even licensed, but where they can get something to eat, where they can go to the toilet, where there'll be maybe even players wandering about, ex-players or guys that aren't getting a game, wandering about, saying hello, getting photographs, autographs, to make families, I suppose, want to go to the games as well, and to build up the support for the next generation. Because right now there's absolutely nothing to encourage taking your kids to the game, especially, and in years gone by there were a lot of buses come up for the south. We used to see a good half dozen, maybe 10 every game, and now we're lucky if we see one. And it's the kids that we're losing. It's a long day for them, and there's a fair chunk of support comes through this, and from Ireland as well. And they need to make it merry a day for them, because as it is just now, the shop's open at 9 and you can get a ticket for another game at 10, and then at 12:30 you can get into the Kerrydale bar and stand for an hour and a half before somebody sells you. That's after you've stood for an hour and a half outside queuing. Just needs to be more effort put into making it customer friendly, because after all, we're all customers now.
So, Andy, what's your typical match day experience then?
I was going to say it's quite a long day as well, but I only stay about 20 minutes away from the ground. I actually took, the last game I went to was Ross County at home, and I went along with my pal and we took our 4-year-old sons, and as much as we went into the family stands for the first time ever, and they've stuck a few Xboxes in, but it wasn't that great. You know, 4-year-olds not really interested in that, but even then, there was tons of kids there, tons of kids. I can see what they're trying to do, but they've not quite got it right. Prior to that, mainly match day experience would be getting to the ground about half an hour beforehand. No wains, but been to Kerrydale once or twice. I thought it was okay. Didn't think it was anything particularly brilliant, but to me, that defies logic that Celtic can't, do something with the land around the ground. I don't know, build a big tent or a big museum, something. There's got to be something more to get people there earlier. Been thinking for years. You walk along the Gallowgate and there's pubs with the fungus and all the rest of it. Those are people who want to go for a drink before the football, regardless. How can Celtic not cash in on that? How can there not be something that brings them all together closer to the ground? As Ralph was saying, make it more of an event from earlier on. Parts of it licensed, parts of it unlicensed, because of course some people are going to get carried away. But you've also got to remember we're in a society that seems to be scared of letting people to have anything that resembles a good time at any time. you can't have a happy hour in a pub. You can't have a drink without having the moral dilemma of everything that society's putting on you just now. If you go to the football and you so much as whisper a song, then you're kind of looking to see is there a police with a camera there, and am I going to have a conversation with my boss on Monday about it?
Wait a minute, is Jeanette Finlay back on again, Ralph? Where did she sneak in from all of us?
Well, see, I said,
No.
it doesn't
I
have
just
to be
think they could be
as well.
They could be doing more. There could be more, and I think the Kerry deal was a good start. But I remember, I think it was before, or it was a cup game. It was against Aberdeen a year or two ago, and it was in the Kerry deal quite early before that, and it was an early kick-off. And as kick-off was approaching, that when the staff were basically punting us out, which I can understand, they were quite emphatic, not get out because the game's starting. It was get out or we'll lose the licence. That was the message. Those were the exact words they were using. Get out or we'll lose the licence. And you're like,
so you can't even just decide to stay in there instead of go through the game. Not that I would do that.
I know, but I mean, it was 12:20, and I was thinking, I've been to one or two games down south, not many, but I remember being at a Community Shield game, Man United Chelsea, about, 2007, 2008 at Wembley, and the game was crap. It was absolutely crap. There was a big crowd days down, and then just halfway through the second half decided just to go for a couple of beers just to kind of break the monotony of the game. They came back, absolutely magic. The game might still be in a crap, but I was in a much better mood to enjoy it anyway. And it just seems bizarre. Even Newcastle as well. You can't. How can we not have a drink during the game? I know I get this thing, not offensive to the pitch. I went to St James's Park once, and there were some guys there that never saw the game. Now, fair enough, but they've got the option to do that. They can go, they can have a drink, they can watch the game on the telly, fine. But we just, and the rugby fans as well. Don't get me started on that, because they've got a middle class background and all the rest of it. Blah blah blah. You can have.
Tommy Sheridan's turned up an hour half. Jimmy, let me just write Jimmy Reid, because I'm going for the treble here, Jimmy. Carry on, Jimmy. Carry on.
Aye. So I'm suggesting we have a sit-in at work, and
yes, brother.
Yes, and there'll be no babying.
I think
no
cussing. If they did sell beer on the ground, what would happen is everybody would come out, cheer for the huddle, and then you'd hear all the seats going up and everybody running back into the bar and just popping out every now and again when they thought something was happening. And I think they're afraid of having the big empty ground on the TV screens, because people in the west coast of Scotland, I hate to stereotype, but they do like a drink. We're doing our best to spread that down here since we've all moved down. But it's hard enough to get them at the pubs. If there was a bar on the ground, they wouldn't go into especially if it was raining. I sit in the front of the North Stand, and believe me, when it rains, they give you a wee cagoule and a wee sponge in that to wipe your feet with.
Really? And the main stand, we're lovely. It's quite nice. Ronnie turns in and waves to me now and again, and somebody fluffs
me
the pillow and fixes my tart rug, brings my curry sauce fried rice in at half time. Oh, it's very civilised in the main stand.
Nice. And the Jockstein upper we get spat on.
Oh, is it warm spit or cold spit?
It depends what the quality of the manners that you use when requesting the spittle.
Yes, by the policeman or policewoman.
Yes.
That's not helping the match day experience either. Is the attitude of the police towards people. You see a lot of them around, and in the past you would maybe look up to them because they were doing a decent job, but now it's just nonsense. You're getting people lifted for swearing so we had a guy get lifted for having to pee, and it was, mind you, it wasn't in a toilet.
On a leg. He won it.
On a leg. Aye, when the post leg.
Yeah, actually. So yeah, he probably did deserve it.
Poor horse.
That was a night match as well. I had to wait till after midnight before they let him out of Brigton, before I set off back down the road. You can imagine how popular he was in the way him.
How was his match day experience?
We've not let him come again. We've not let him come again. That's it. Now it's done. No, it's the whole thing's become. it's like you get the feeling that they just want it over with. You know, they'll open the gates, let the rabble in, and then can you all go now, please? And that's from the club.
That is a very good turn of phrase you used there. Just get it over with, which we've all heard, no doubt, in our lifetimes. But do you not think that's also kind of getting reflected with the supporters at the moment, at least, if no for the last quite a few years? Just get it over with. It's kind of more. We're more going along to see Celtic. I've probably missed more games this season than I've actually saw due to work commitments. But to be honest, there's not been many where I've went, oh damn, I'm going to miss a game a day. It's been a case of, oh, there's a game a day. Whereas it used to be your diary was marked up as so you knew exactly when every game was. Because I had to, before we came on air, I had to ask you guys to confirm when the Partick game was this weekend. So maybe it's a bad reflection on me rather than the Celtic.
No, really, it could just be a whole thing. See, we've always planned a month in advance for each season. We have a meeting the first Monday of the month, and that's when we plan what games are on, where we're going, etc. And everything's all done that day. And we sat down Monday there, and we've not got a home game this season. This month, rather. We've not got a home game this season. That would make the league interesting, wouldn't it? We've not got a home game this month. And then we've got the 2nd of April is the last home game before the split, I think. So we must have a fair... we've got Dundee and Partick coming up, haven't we?
That's not the first time that's happened in March. There's been a couple of times in recent memory, just off the top of my head, where March we've not had a home game. Whether it's been due to postponements or stuff, I don't know. But that didn't strike me as totally unusual when you said that there.
It's like I can't... Like I say, we planned 1 month at a time. We've forgotten what happened the month before, and I think there was a UEFA game run about this time last year, wasn't there? Inter Milan would have been run about this time.
Well, I was just going to say, well, hopefully the club's solvent, because no doubt the lack of home games has an effect on cash flow. You know what I mean? Especially for...
Yep. We don't spend any, do we?
No, but exactly, but it's just that club, even though it does not pay the minimum wage, whatever living wage, still has expenses to meet month on month.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
That's true, yeah. Players have to be paid even if they're not well.
Yeah, or they're well and they're just no playing.
It could be. There is a malaise running through the support, and it looks like when you see them on the park, it's running through the players as well. That's probably why there's so many stories coming out of the place. You're getting people sending me text messages or Twitter messages and so, have you heard about this? And then, of course, you ask other people if they've heard about it, and you gradually come up with maybe not exactly what's happened, but certainly a sense that something is happening. And it seems like there's absolutely no leadership off the park. There's no leadership on the park. They're kind of bumbling along from one game to the next. The club themselves are trying desperately to get people interested, but then when it actually comes down to doing it, they're not that bothered.
Yeah.
It's a mess, and I think I've been up there a couple of times talking to people, and you get this. One of them turned around to me and says, "Oh, don't worry, they'll be back next season." And I thought, what? I don't want them back. I'd happily never play them again or even speak about them again, but we're stuck with them. But the attitude is, well, when they're back, everything will be all right. And while they've been concentrating on next season, this season's caught up with them. And all of a sudden, it's nothing's for certain anymore. And it's like, if you're playing football and you're 3 or 4 ahead and you take your foot off the gas and the other team comes back at you, it's very difficult to get yourself back up to that level that you started the game at. And it's going to be, there's a wee bit nerves creeping in about the rest of the season, but we'll obviously come on to that later. And it might improve the matchday experience. Maybe people will get interested again. Maybe the players will get interested. We could have done without it, but it was always going to happen.
Yeah, so that's like
one of the things.
I was with Martin the other day, the Dundee game, even though it ended up 0-0 the other night. It was some my daughter was like ridiculous, etc., etc. And I went, it reminds me that even under Martin O'Neill, and was it the Benetti brothers? Remember they were in charge of Dundee, the 2 Italian guys were managing Dundee. And what was his name? Caballero, whatever his name would be. Remember him? I remember he was really good. And I mind we were playing them one night, and it was everybody was as tense as anything. It was like a kind of sunny Tuesday night, and everybody was pure tense. And Big Me Albie scored in something like the 96th minute or something. Remember at the back post, But
header,
I remember it was the same idea as that the football was terrible, the nerves were kicking in, everybody was grumbling and moaning, and I'm kind of thinking to myself, this is nothing new really. The whole, I know,
for the older support,
and that was even when we were
definitely.
good. Even when we were good, there was still shit games. It's just that everything's getting magnified by a million times these days. But
Yeah, and it's a lot of younger supporters are sort of, hang on, we should be winning this, we should be coasting this, we've got all this money, and it doesn't work that way. It never has.
Well, like we discussed before, a story I had years ago, and I remember in the pub a Sunday night, and karaoke or something was on, and I think I was up singing Chelsea Dagger, whatever it was, and the pub, not really everything, but nothing to do with my singing. I was going to say everybody's just kind of sitting in the pub, quite kind of Sunday night as if they're half asleep, and I was like with the mic, I was like, come on, it's not every day you win the league. Not like as if it was a case of, oh well, that's it, we've won another league, and you're kind of like that. It doesn't really work like that. It's amazing how quickly people forget the shit times and then start taking success for granted.
It's happened, Rod. See, when they went down, we were kind of hoping that somebody else would come up and give us a challenge, and we were hoping that Scottish football would thrive with Scottish players, and we could maybe get the national team, well, maybe not qualifying for tournaments, but at least approaching games with a wee bit of confidence, with the players that they've got. And it's starting to happen. It's just crept up on us, and it's frightened us, and we don't know how to deal with it. It's 5 years now since I went under, 4 years? And there's a generation coming through that were maybe leaving, towards leaving school, that are now regular attenders at the game, that are in their early 20s maybe. My maths is terrible, so is. But these people have only ever seen a world without Rangers. And
what a beautiful place it is.
Oh, it is, isn't it? It's like a permanent spring morning.
Okay, that should be, see when you release the diary's greatest hits, I think that should be the subtitle. A World Without Rangers by Ralph Mal.
And people are having difficulty. See, we can remember when, if you go back to the 80s, Rangers were awful. They were a joke, and we didn't take them seriously at all, because Aberdeen and Dundee United were very, very strong sides. They were even reckoned with in Europe. And it's a wee bit away from that again yet. A hell of a long way, because you need European experience to do well in Europe, and they're not getting a chance to do that because they're usually out before the kids are back at school. But it'll come. It'll just take a while.
I think what you were saying there, about we saw an opportunity for sort of Scottish football to kind of correct itself and progress, as it were, when they went bust and died, or whatever you want to call it. And
transitioned, I think you believe.
Transitioned, when memberships were changed, etc. Whatever. But and we were saying we want someone to come up and challenge us, and it's one of the ones where, in theory, it sounds great, but when the reality comes, you say that's when the reality and theory don't quite match up. But I think it's the nature of how the challenges come.
Yeah.
Has it really been that Aberdeen have been that good and that improved? And I do think they have improved, or have we regressed to a certain level? I think there's scope for argument in both there.
I don't know if it's regressed. It's definitely, we're not progressing as much as we should have done, perhaps. But I don't think it's anything to do, especially with the quality of player. I think it's more to do with a mindset. There was a noticeable difference in the way the team approached games after they went out of the Champions League. When that was done, you could see that they didn't even have an appetite for the Europa League. Sure, when they played the games, they started off all right, and if it went well, they carried on all right. But that was a disastrous campaign, even though it doesn't feel like, when it was like a Seville season. We won nothing, but we didn't especially do anything wrong. And it was the same in that Europa League thing. And of course, we get panned for it, and it's Ronnie should go, and all this kind of thing. And you think, oh, here we go again. And ultimately we are still sitting at the top of the league. There is a better than average chance of getting a double. And yet somehow, because they're not there, it doesn't count. And I don't know if that's in our own minds, or it's because the press and the media are telling us that without them, it's nothing, when it's all nonsense coming out of them. But the simple fact of the matter is the other clubs, and we said this in podcasts when they went down, the other clubs now see a chance of getting silverware and getting cup finals, and there's another place in European football become available, and they're going to go for it. Because instead of 8 games, where they have to batten up the hatches every year, they've only got 4. And for the sake of that, they might as well have a go at us. And that's what they've been doing.
Yeah.
And we've not adapted to it.
But like we're talking about that whole we're wanting a challenge and now we're back to be careful what you wish for idea. It reminds me back in a long time ago, back to the 80s, when I was an apprentice plasterer. We were in a yard talking, and there was let's just say there was various levels of professionalism between the workers, right? You had your good vans and your bad vans, right? A lot of people be away doing their work, a lot of people be away skiving in the pub, etc. And it was a case of, we were all apprentices, and a case of, you don't want to go in their van. And it was nothing sinister, but like, why not? He's like, why not? And it's like, because a bad lot will always bring an individual down, right? Rather than a good individual helping lift. Even though you get your occasional Hollywood movie about how a do-gooder can lift a bad lot. In reality, 99.99 times out of 10, the good one will get dragged down to the level of the bad lot, which I think is basically what's happened to Celtic in the last 4 years. They've just went in an ever-decreasing circle. You've went through buying players, even saving about the 4 million mark. I refuse to believe that Simonovic or whatever cost 5 million. That's just one of the deals, cost 5 million over 4 years, including his wages and his air miles. Yeah, exactly, all that shit, the agent fees and stuff.
To the ground every day.
We're quoting in euros like David Murray used to do, all that sort of nonsense. We're starting to get down the roads, I think. And it's just so we're so people go, oh, Aberdeen are doing great, and you go, well, Aberdeen are doing good. It's Celtic who are starting to plateau. They're just starting to they've no progression. They're just running to stand still. So they are ones who will inevitably end up. They're no catching them. They're just coming along at the same realistically the same speed. It's just that we're just on a treadmill going nowhere.
The Europa League, you touched on it earlier, the campaign was a disaster. Last year's campaign was okay.
Yeah, I would say.
I might even be generous saying okay. When Neil Lennon was in charge, the Europa League, after was it Sion that gifted us the passage to the Europa League? We had Udinese, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
that group. That was a good group, but I think that squad and that management team saw that as an ideal learning opportunity, and I think they made the most of it, because we would never have been ready for the Champions League group stage as we were the next season, because we made the most of the Europa League. Last year's Europa League was okay. The Inter Milan games, I thought, were pretty decent. This year's Europa League was an absolute disaster, and I think that is what is in the mindset of many fans, in that, yeah, okay, we had another tough group, but did we really make the most of it? I don't even think we did, because we never allowed ourselves to. We didn't look for the opportunity, and I thought we should have, given the first game. Was it Ajax's first game, wasn't it?
We did all right, remember?
Away.
Yeah.
I thought we did. I thought we did very well in that one particular game. Thereafter, you could say Fenerbahce at home until FA had his wee error, and I think there were aspects of the Ajax game at home that were good, but the Molde games were an absolute cowp. And okay, Molde did very well, wasn't limited to just us, but I'd also say, from what I saw the Fenerbahce game away, I actually thought we could have done much better over there, because they looked like a team that were in second gear, and we just didn't look as if we were interested to have a right good go at them. And I think that's
daft as it seems, as bad as we play, you're spot on. As bad as it was, there was always this feeling that we were still going to qualify, and it seemed to me as though the squad thought that right up until the bit when it was taken away from them.
Yeah,
it's like, no, you're not in anymore, and it's wait, no, sorry, we didn't take it. Can we have another shot? Oh wait, no, that's it, you're done. I don't think they realised just how badly the campaign was going, because it was always, well, if they do this and they do that, we'll be through anyway. And now that, for everything else you could say, that's a failing of the management that never made them realise just how bad things were going. And if that's to repeat itself in the league, then
Aye,
it looks like we'll be starting all
but
over again next season.
Is the failing of
Which
the
is ridiculous. When you've
management
had 3 or 4
not
years to-
making the players realise where it went wrong, or is the failing of the management to not realise it's actually went wrong? I seen Ronnie saying the other week, they're giving us 100%, but we're not getting 100% out of them, and some people are trying to take his piss. But I could see what he's trying to say, because obviously he's trying to develop players, and we're talking earlier offline about Kieran Tierney now being in the Scotland squad, and I know Hector's been having chats with you and Murray and that on I was going to say Tinder on Twitter. Well, I'd imagine so. Along with Lee Griffiths, who was spotted recently. You said aye a bit quick, Andy. Are you back on it? Allegedly.
I heard that. What did they? I heard that. Somebody work was talking about it.
Kieran Tierney about, and he's basically saying, he's defending very well, but he's got a long way to go, and he was saying that in a positive way. So I do think, but again, it kind of brings me back to the idea of Ronnie could be a good coach, but he's not necessarily a good manager. He's not necessarily that guy to be. Is he Brian Kidd? Is he that sort of guy? Is he the number 2, rather than, especially at a big club?
Very possible. That's.
I think a lot of people think
a
he's a number 2.
Very good point.
Well, see, even at that, he doesn't have a number 2. He doesn't have somebody like Sean Fallon or Billy Stark or John Clark that can act as an intermediary. Because from all the, again, it's all just wee stories. There might be nothing in it. But Collins apparently has a habit of going around saying, well, if I was a manager, you'd be in the team. And it might be something or nothing, but the fact that those kind of stories are appearing, whether they're true or not, and that they're easy to believe, makes you wonder if there is some kind of split between the management. At one hand, number 2's job is to put his arm around a player and say, look, you're not playing because, and then explain, and then say, but don't worry, I'll put in a word for you.
I know who would be the ideal number 2 at this point in time is somebody like Ronnie Delia. John Hughes. Somebody who actually loved playing for Celtic and got the whole privilege of being a Celtic player. I mean, the guy was limited.
Aye, but the subs are shitting themselves.
You make people not getting 10 for playing badly. Maybe that's what they need, a bit of fear, rather than a bit of, fuck them. You know what I mean? Like, which is the impression you get with Ronnie Delia, to be honest. Ralph, you commented that week about how there was nothing happening while some Dundee player was injured. I think it was.
That's right, yeah. If you remember when, I think it was when Ronnie first came in, I says to you that I was going to watch what he did during the game, because you felt like there was too much micromanagement going on. And it was, that was Lennon. That was Lennon, wasn't it? He was micromanaging. Tyler was the exact opposite. And if you ever go to Carrington, where Manchester United train, the coaches there don't interfere during the kids' games. They want the kids to make their own minds up and decide what to do. And then afterwards, they'll talk them through it, which is very much Tyler's style. But when you've 20 minutes to go and there's a Dundee player injured, you've got 8, so I could say 6 or 8 Celtic players stood next to him. He turned around and started speaking to John Kennedy. Instead of like, come on, let's do something here, or a wee bit of winding up, or even just acknowledging the fact there's 20 minutes to go.
And you asked Kennedy if you wanted to go on.
We could do it. It's something like, you're talking about number 2 there. John Hughes is a great idea, but in a similar mould. Johan Mialby had the same effect when he came back, if you remember. It was a wee bit lackadaisical, and he got onto the training park, and he started throwing himself about a bit, and it had a galvanising effect on the team. Maybe it was a wee bit of fear. Everybody needs their arses kicked from time to time when they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. But that's down to a manager to decide whether or not somebody will respond to that, or respond better to an arm around the shoulder. That's the skills in man management. And it, for all his attributes as a coach, for all the success he has, it doesn't seem to me like he's got that.
Yeah.
I think he's just a coach. So it does need, maybe, it's like the Carlton Cole thing. The word was it was Carlton Cole.
No. If it was Andy, I would have known who it was straight away.
It's completely disappeared off the. There may be a reason for it. It may just be tittle-tattle again. But Scott Brown was asked where he was by one of the coaches, according to somebody was telling us, and he had no idea where he was, and neither did the coaches. Just disappeared about 2 weeks ago. Roughly about.
He was struggling again. He was struggling against Stranraer.
Scott Brown or Carlton Cole?
If he's going and he's oh, Carlton Cole, Scott Brown couldn't make that one.
You wouldn't have noticed anyway.
If Carlton Cole is gone, fine. You know what? We've got 428 other players. Unfortunately, none of them happen to be strikers, but
or defenders or goalkeepers.
Aye. But those attacking midfielder positions, they're a rare commodity. So we'll be laughing come the next window with the bids we're going to get. Trust me.
See if you just take it back to the whole downsizing and wanting a challenge, but suddenly the club's approach to wanting a challenge was to take Celtic down a level rather than ask the other clubs to bring themselves up a level. I mean, it's honestly, can you remember the day you heard the news that Carlton Cole was joining Celtic? That's the sort of world we live in now. That we're like, who have we signed? Who? Oh, I mean, and you just shrug. That's how apathetic everybody gets.
And then it was just like Ian Wright all over again.
I can remember it because it was the Molde away game that they announced it. It was either on that day or the day before. So you're already in the middle of a European campaign. You can't register any more players. And they said, oh, by the way, we've got a striker now. And you're thinking, what?
He's a big dud.
You realise who it was.
He's a big dud who hasn't played for 2 months and can't get a job in the MLS.
Aye.
Ian Dublin, Ian Wright. It's all the same. They seem to think they can come up here and playing Sunday League football, and it's
sorry,
not.
Ralph, I'm not having
Dion
Dublin plugged into the same conversation as Ian Wright and Carlton Cole. I met Dion Dublin at a title-winning party that year we won the league, and he told me he was a gentleman, and one up in the tune. He was a gentleman, and I asked him to score a goal against the Huns the following week, and he said it would be his dream come true to do that, and it wasn't. And that was the same night. Remember, I told you when I met. What was his name? The right back. Oh, no, Paul Telfer. And he was greeting into his pint about how Celtic fans didn't like him and they loved Jackie McNamara, Jackie McNamara. This case, and you don't know, is one of the. Exactly right. So he's one of the guys on my blacklist, so to speak. Right. So I'm like, fuck Jackie McNamara. You've been brilliant. And Paul Taylor, I swear to God, he had tears in his eyes that night, and I'm like, you done a great job, and he did. That guy done exactly the job Gordon Strachan asked him, and Gordon Strachan exactly.
Nakamura wouldn't have had half the time they had the Scottish football without him.
Yeah, all right. It was named Michael. Was it Michael Greer Stewart? I can't remember, or Jean Pierre Dumby, or granted, but he tried his best.
Jean Pierre. Exactly. You mean the guy who scored the winning goal in a Scottish final?
Final.
Oh, aye, we've done that a couple of years ago. Tommy Johnson, as soon as he scored a winner for the league, out the door. Harold Britback, out the door. That's what I mean. It was a wee spate of him. Frank McGarvey scored a winner cup final, out the door.
Every time we sign somebody must be getting a wee commission, and it'll be the same guy that brokers all the deals, and he'll have a big house somewhere in California, and he just ships players out, and ships them in, and that's all he does, and he's hidden away, and he comes up with these players that nobody's ever heard of. So
sorry, Ralph. The only impression of time is like, mind you, I don't know if if it's still as popular as it used to be, but you used to your fantasy football, and it'd be like, okay, one of your pals have opened, or your work's opened a league, everybody join quick. And you're like, you've got £30 million to fill your team, etc., and you go, all right, I'll have him, or he's a good keeper, etc. Then suddenly you go, well, my squad's looking good, and then you realise you've still got 2 positions to fill, but you've only got 600 grand left. You know, that way you've bought a $4 million player and you've bought a $3 million defender, and you realise you've pissed it all away. And that's what I think Celtic's like now. They're like, right, well, There's you've got 500 grand left. That's your whack, including wages. See what you can get for that. But we'll get Carlton Cole in a pay-as-you-play deal. Carlton Cole turns up for 3 weeks and goes, oh, fuck it, I'm off. I'm not hanging about for this. It's too wet and miserable here.
Does he not owe us money then?
That Kazim Richards, he's laughing his head off another 2-year deal. You know what I mean? Laughing his head off.
Aye. I've made judgments out on that guy. He actually looks like he wants to do something. He wants to stay. But I think somebody says there's something waiting to happen there. Somebody's going to trip him up and he's going to lamp somebody. And
I was just about to say,
right,
that's okay.
We'll come on to the cup semi-final in a minute. If he's going to be one of the great cult heroes, and I use that word loosely, he punched somebody, he punched a Rangers player, something, they're going to go, yeah, that's really what we're all wanting to see in a Celtic jersey. You know what I mean? But
wait, that's the thing.
No, but
real Rangers players, it's not the same. It's just a bunch of guys for England
really,
come up and put on a blue top and playing football.
Just like the 80s then.
No, but I was going to say, like, Kazim Richards, it reminds me of kind of, Ramon Vega, his first game against Aberdeen, and I took my mate doesn't really, he's a Celtic fan, but he doesn't really bother, he never goes to games and that, but I had a spare ticket and he came along, and I'm in Big Vega's first game, scored 2 against Aberdeen, and I'm like, my mate, what do you think of the new signing? And my mate's a good player, and he just went, cart horse. That's all he said, cart horse. He wasn't interested in a defender who could score goals, or he just went, cart horse. And I look at Kazim Richards and I just think he's the exact same, just a big lump of wood who might be wanting to try and do his best, but that's not really the kind of quality that we're wanting at Celtic, I think. But maybe that's just what we're reduced to now. We've got one player in the league with us, and the rest are all possibles. I think everybody else is on a would probably get rid of them list, and if I was brutally honest. Who would you must keep in the Celtic squad right now? Hand on heart. Must keep.
Right.
Keep Tierney.
I must keep.
Take your time.
Hey.
It takes you a while to remember. That's
Scott Allen. I would keep Scott Allen for the simple fact that I don't think he's been afforded the opportunity for us.
Right, let me just. I'm going to make a wee note here, Andy, because we're going to come back to that. Because that's a very good. Right, that's good note. Because there's a lot of discussion there. Okay, keep going, Ralph. Any ideas that must keeps? You're like imagine the Celtic. They're sitting they're huddled in one wee candle at Paradise at the moment, trying to make up a list for next year. They're not worried about budgets, right? And they're saying, okay, Ronnie. What's the plans? Who we needing before we get the fantasy? Before we get Football Manager 2016 on the PC? What we looking for? Who's your must keeps? Craig Gordon, yeah, must keep.
Look, can I have a question on geography?
I don't mean to depress anybody, but I'm just thinking there going, how do we end up signing players like Kazim Richards for 2 years?
There's a spine of it.
Right, that's fine. He's fine.
Tierney then. But I have to say, you're largely going potential there. As much as the boy's been doing well, I still think he's got a lot to prove. Great tackler, great defender, and yeah, he did well against Morton going forward. I want to see him do more of that going forward. That's what I would like to see.
That's fine. I'm way there, and also, but he also needs. I think.
I would stick my. Scott Allen's an obvious because he is the only one.
No,
he's the only one. You see, the difference between Allen and the rest of them is that his natural instinct, or the first thing he does, is to play a ball forward. Now, a midfielder, if he cannot see a pass and it's an attacking side, you play the ball into space. Your forwards are programmed. If they cannot get away from a marker, run towards the same space. It's basics, right? It's what I was taught when I used to play by millions of coaches that all used to say, "Will you stop drinking and play?" You, as a forward, you run to the space. As a midfielder, you play the ball into the space, and you're moving forward all the time.
I don't know if any of you.
Right. I used to coach a team down here, and I said exactly the same thing to them. There's a bloody great big gap there. The two of you can see where it is. One of you put the ball there. The other one run towards it. The defenders will have to turn. You will have an extra yard on them. It's not rocket science. Yet we play it across the face of the goal, time after time, looking for a gap. Well, you're not going to get a gap. Because every time you play a pass, the goals are up again.
Sorry to keep it. I don't know. No. I'm coming. Listen, I'm basically highlighting the point you made there, right? I don't know if Andy or yourselves, every now and again, I try and highlight. There's a guy who writes for Football 365, Daniel Story. I don't know if you don't follow him on Twitter, you should, and if you don't read his stuff on Football 365, you should. He's really, really good. Nottingham Forest fan, but he's doing a thing at the moment, profile of an icon, right? And he's done various players, and it's no always your most obvious. So people were celebrating the Barcelona penalty. Remember when Messi passed it and Suarez scored it, right? And I'm like, Daniel Story, what about Cruyff? And I've been going on to him for ages about Cruyff, mainly for Cruyff being the only player ever to wear his own football jersey in a World Cup final, right? And I kept saying that to him. And then he just kind of kept ignoring me. I think he was getting a stalker alert at times. But then when somebody they kept going about penalty, I went, Cruyff done it. Remember Cruyff done it years ago. So then he done a profile on Cruyff. So look up Portrait of an Icon, Johan Cruyff, and Johan Cruyff's mantra of a good football player, Ralph, is the definition of a good player is someone who can pass a ball first time to his colleague's good foot. So it's not even just passing it to the guy. It's knowing that you're passing it to his good foot and having that switch in your brain. And I thought that was a brilliant insight of how somebody like Johan Cruyff thinks about football. It's not even a case of putting it into space, whatever. It's making sure when the guy gets it in space, he doesn't need to do anything bar think, where am I going to put this ball? I mean, it was brilliant, as simple as you could possibly get it, but that's football class in a nutshell. And I don't know if half the Celtic players could do that. And I am not saying why Scott Allen, because I don't want to see Scott Allen succeed in a Celtic jersey. As Andy, you said, he's not the chance to succeed in a Celtic jersey, which is a liberty considering what we saw. And I keep going on with this. I've still not seen Stuart Armstrong prove himself, in my humble opinion, for Celtic this season. I think
I'd go with that as well, but I would also say that Stuart Armstrong needs to be given the chance in a central position. He's never in a million years a player who can play on the left. Dundee United, I mean, he did us over one time, coming through the middle. And I think what was the game? Hamilton in January. Now, that's probably the only game I'll ever go to where I miss the first 4 goals, you still see half the goals of a game.
But you and Tuxford's having that he's bugging by any chance it's that night.
I was enjoying some fighting rats at the local brasserie. But Stuart Armstrong played, in the second half at least, they stuck him in the middle, and you could almost see the sort of the boy enjoying himself. He looks as if he's doing a job on the left. Yeah. When he went into the middle, he looked as if he was enjoying himself. He looked as if he was starting to express himself, influencing the game the way he can do. Now, fair enough, Hamilton were absolutely gashed that night, but I think there's definite scope to say Stuart Armstrong should be given a chance in a more central position, and then we can get the pitchforks and we can fill up the car park and we can hunt him then. But at the minute, he's more left.
I'm willing to give, and it's not like me, willing to give whoever picks these players, and I'm talking about as in the purchasing plans. Was Stuart Armstrong purchased as the successor to Scott Brown, do we think? Or is Scott Brown literally still going to be in a Celtic jersey 2 years from now?
You know something, you might have a point there, because Brown hasn't played his potential this season at all. He's carried injuries. He's been, I think, 2 years out of the last 3 he's spent most of the time injured. He's not bringing a lot to the team just now, and I've been saying for a while on the bus, not in the diary, but I think he's done. I think he's finished, and I think now he's been called back in to kind of rally the troops with his final push.
Aye, but also,
and I don't think he's got it there. But same as when Charlie Mulgrew came back into the side in the last game there, he turned with the ball on his wrong foot, and it was like watching it in slow motion. I thought it would obviously look better when he was playing at centre half there at the weekend, but he was only playing against Morton, and the thing is, there's like players there that should be leading from the front, and players that suddenly I think we're depending on, and they just don't have it in them anymore. So I think we've got a wee bit of a dilemma coming up for the final bit. Do we say, right, I'll tell you what, I'm going to put Scott Allen in front of him and Stuart Armstrong behind him, and maybe Ryan, I'll tell you what, no, let's not go with that diamond thing. Let's have Alan Armstrong and Christie. We'll use either Forrest or Mackay-Stephen on either side of them,
Right.
and we'll just leave one back, shall we, and have Griffiths in front.
Yeah.
Go with the team that's going to take the next 5
train of thought
championships.
in life, and it's usually around about the times of war or the times of economical crisis, whereby I can't remember what it was. I saw this in like The Big Short or some other movie or whatever, and it's basically during times of fear, people stick with what they know. So like people will vote in a harsh Tory government when there's economic worries, because they know exactly what they're going to get and they know what they're going to do, even if it means your neighbour's going to suffer. As long as you're okay, you'll protect yourself, etc. And in times of hope, people will go with something new, like you'll get Obama in 8 years ago, etc., etc. So at this point in time, there's no way Celtic, new under pressure, are going to turn and say, right, it's time to unleash the hounds of hell. It's no time to unleash the hounds of hope. It's no time to go, right, young guys, right, young football players, Armstrongs, Tierney, Allen, on yous go, swashbuckle our way to the title. It's time to grind out an ugly 1-0 by taking every boot you can, Charlie Mulgrew. Even though we'll be sitting in the stands going, what the hell is this? It's literally just trying to get over that finish line.
I agree with that to an extent, but
I think that's what we're going to do.
I've got to ask you, are you saying that Scott
No,
Brown
I'm saying
is
that
Celtic's Tory government?
I am saying that is the way. That's the way Ronnie Dyler and John Collins and John Kennedy would look at it. Go with what we know.
Yeah, I think he was rushed back in. I think Scott Brown does have qualities. I think it's good that he's there. I don't think he's done, but I certainly see why people are saying that. And you're right, the last 3 years, he's been injured a hell of a lot. I know there's an issue with his hip and all the rest of it, but I think it was at the Ross County semi-final, he was brought back on as a sub, and he's obviously been brought back on there to try and rile them, to try and engender some kind of spark, and it's not.
And he did, and then it was like 10 minutes after that.
Aye.
It was all back to just nobody cares anymore.
Aye, because he was out of puff, because he probably couldn't even shout because he was buggered. You know, I just think he's been rushed back in from this latest one, and as kind of hinted at earlier, when you've got a squad of, I think we've got about 14 midfielders. Was there really the necessity?
But as Andy just touched on earlier, like with Stuart Armstrong playing the left, Scott Allen can't get in because there's no room for a creative midfielder just playing in behind a front two when we don't have a front two. If we get these individuals who don't actually fit a generic Celtic team plan, I mean, even though we've got a formation, we don't actually have the personnel. We don't have two left-sided midfielders. We don't have two holding midfielders who can swap and change whenever one gets suspended or injured, etc. It's just, right, he can sometimes play here, he can sometimes play there. If someone else isn't available, just put somebody else in, or bring Mulgrew back. No, that's the idea.
Yeah. I always thought Martin O'Neill, as much as he liked 3-5-2, I don't think he would have went with Celtic had he not come in and seen what was available in the midfield. Because I think when Martin O'Neill came in, I think he looked at the players that were there and realised there's a very strong centre midfield. How do I get the maximum influence of that? And I think that's what shaped his 3-5-2. And I think that was a sign of good management, getting the formation around the players you've got, as opposed to what we seem to have now. It's getting the formation and then just try to fit the players into that, no matter what. But could be wrong.
No, can I add to that? Because if I remember rightly, when O'Neill came in, we were doing a 4-4-2 to start with, and the players actually said to him they were more comfortable with three at the back, and he listened to them and went with it. So it was maybe a combination of the two there. I distinctly remember saying wanted three at the back.
Was that
the players wanted
Stephen Mahy away up the park? Was that they were aiming for?
Way up the park.
That's the kind of player we need right now. it's somebody like that, somebody like a Mahe or a Mayalbi, or just somebody with a wee bit about them that can impose himself. We've got
I
Patrick
was about
Roberts,
to say,
we've not mentioned
four
him.
wingers. Is 4 wingers enough for each side of the park?
Class of we've got. With the pace that we've got, we should be able to clear a defence out, just running at them. They should feel that they're being blitzkrieged, for want of a better word, because you get 2 on there that can run for 45 minutes, and you bring another 2 on and wear them down even more.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be anybody able to live with the pace and the skill of that forwards line, and yet all they do is just stand in front of you, and that's it. Oh, what do I do now? And that was one of the things we come back to previous teams and previous managers. Lennon's team was exactly the same. Strachan, somebody put in one of the replies to the diary, I think it was earlier on this week, about Strachan, who decided not to even bother going to watch other Scottish teams because they play a different way against us. And maybe Dyler didn't know that when he came in. He should have known it by now. And Collins certainly should have known it. Because there's no point in watching Dundee the week before they play us, because they'll not play like that against us. And we should really be used to teams lining up like that.
Especially given that Dundee never played the first team against us as well, which I think a lot of people, they're saving their players for the cup game, which I think from their point of view is understandable, and they made an arse of it, fair enough. But I think that's the Dundee game in particular stuck in a lot of people's throats, because that was Dundee's reserves that could have quite considerably.
To go back to what you were saying about putting either the familiar old guard that will get as a result, or some young guys that's away out and enjoy yourself, make a name for yourself. Doesn't matter if we get beat. Now, obviously, that doesn't apply to Celtic, but to Dundee, it would have done that night.
Yeah.
There you are. You're playing there. On you go. Enjoy yourself.
Aye.
And they went out. No pressure. And they probably realised that, hang on, we've got a chance of doing something here.
Yep.
And that's why we don't take chances. We have gone very conservative, not just in the boardroom, but on the park as well.
I've got Scott Allen, Kieran Tierney and Stuart Armstrong centre. And Lee Griffiths, right? Okay.
Obviously Griffiths.
Yeah.
So I've been saying for ages.
The gangster's Maul,
and he's going to do his
ex-partner. Okay, so we've got Lee Griffiths. Anybody else? Take your time. Tom Rock. Oh, I like this. I like when we get wee bones of contention. Here we go. Tom Rock.
Right, see if he looks up when he's got the ball every now and again. Maybe. See, he runs down. He just runs, and then he can't understand why.
So what position are we playing him then?
And then he loses the ball.
Andy.
Drawback.
Goalie. Stick him in goal. Stick him in the goal.
Very good. Stick him in goal. No. So where do you see him? Number 10 or just? So again, I'm trying to get an idea.
Aye, well, I'm kind of thinking him from a
squad player now. So this is how.
Get 20
Right. You're the one asking how Celtic.
He's got. I think he's got something about him. I think when the ball's at his feet, I don't think there's many other players in Scotland who is quick.
That level of skill, exactly.
That level of skill, he can find space where space really shouldn't be, and he's shown he's got an eye for goal as well. I think there's something brewing quite nicely in him.
I agree 100% with everything you said, right? But what he does, he watches his feet while he's got the ball, and instead of looking up every now and again to see where he should be going, and I mean it looks great and he must like it as well. You know, when he does his wee flicks, he'll be playing about there and think, oh, this looks great, and then he looks up and there's 4 defenders around him.
Aye.
But then again, that could just be because there's always 4 defenders around anybody we put into some kind of advanced position. But he's great on the ball. He's difficult to get off the ball, but he doesn't seem to know where he's going. And if you contrast that with the way Patrick Roberts plays, who doesn't actually dribble around, he just runs straight at them.
But the thing with Tom Rogic says, right, he's apparently the greatest five-a-sides player from Australia ever. Right? That was his whole thing about being spotted in a football contest, so to speak, and being the next superstar of Australian football. And again, has he got the engine? Is he just a kind of a Paddy McCourt with an upgrade, so to speak? And again, I'm just finding that. But has ever started and finished again?
That's actually a good way of putting it. He does look like Paddy McCourt.
Right, but has he actually got the engine? Is he going to step up to that next level whereby he can stop and he he can start and finish 10 games in a row, etc. I think he's still that fragile.
Aye.
The thing is, none of them
That's a fair point.
will step up to the next level if they're not familiar with the players around them. None of them will step up to the next level if they're not getting a decent run of games. And we've too many now. You can't keep everybody happy. So he needs to pick maybe 14, 15, 16
well, again,
players
no,
stick with them.
I'm sorry to keep interrupting you, but it's just you're making all these good points. I saw on Twitter last night somebody mentioning, I think Aberdeen have had 2 runs of 8 wins this season, and Celtic's is something like 5 is the most they've had in a row. That's like this season. So again, like the team on the remember Martin O'Neill's team, you could name them. Celtic, you wouldn't. There's no way you would place any decent amount of money in naming the Celtic side on a Saturday morning.
We went near a full season sitting on the bus. Right, come on then. The person that wins doesn't pay for his drink today, and all you had to do was name the team, and then he would get week after week. None of us would
used to enjoy the shock of hearing somebody was either out or somebody else was in. No, that way. Your joke, Steve Guppy's back.
Yeah. Yes. Need a big game for Petrov today. And you knew if Petrov scored in 2 games in a row, you could put your money on him first goal scorer for about the next 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. And it was that kind of familiarity, that kind of pattern. It was just everybody was comfortable with themselves and everybody else that was around them. Right. And here, if we don't know, and the players probably don't even know who's playing. I know from what I'm hearing, it's right. I'll get you a ticket for that game if such and such isn't in the squad. They've no idea if they're even in the squad. Never mind the team. Aye. It's not the way to run a railroad.
I read the other day. I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was something like, say we played 46 games or something. We've had 43 different team combinations. Oh. You know, it's something crazy like that. It was something like, and we've only played the same team 2 games in a row once or something like that. So.
Was that when the bus carrying half the squad didn't turn up in time?
We're not even talking about the superstars of the Martin O'Neill era, the £6 million and all that. We just touched on it earlier on of how big an understanding and how important a simple understanding between somebody like Nakamura, guy didn't speak English, and Paul Telfer. I mean, a journeyman back who could run all day long, but he would run all day long with that instruction of, you go up the park and you take that defender away from Nakamura, and every time you lose it, you get behind him. And that was so, I mean...
Yeah. And if there's anywhere to go, he's got a ball to you, and then Nakamura moves in it. It's just so simple when you think about it, and yet it's not happening. Now, maybe that's, again, to get back to the players' mentality. Is that because they think they should be coasting these games? And it doesn't matter, we'll win next week. And it's so easy to procrastinate. Wow, did I get that word in the podcast? It's so easy to think. It's so easy to think, well, I'll do it next week, or I'll finish that off later. And then all of a sudden it is later. And we're in a position now where we could actually be at second place. And I was thinking about it today. We're not that far away from winning them to drop points. And it's a horrible thought. But in the same way, we're dreading it. We don't like it.
Do you know what I did the other
night? Look forward to the games.
Really, it was a bit of a throwback again. Sitting, telly was on, Kim was on, and I just happened to get my phone, and I think I was trying to see. I believe I thought Chelsea game was on Tuesday, so I thought I'll check the result. I wasn't watching. Check the result. Obviously, I wasn't watching. It wasn't until last night. I'll check the result on BBC, and it came up with BBC Scotland football, Aberdeen Partick Thistle. I went, I didn't even know they were playing, right? And it was 1-0 to Partick Thistle. And I was like, oh good, and you get that wee lift of, oh good, because you're suddenly in this title race and it's little good. And sure enough, within 2 minutes, it went 2-1 to Aberdeen. And I sat there thinking, I've jinxed that. Remember the days? Remember the days used to think, I'm to blame. I went, I've jinxed that. That was my fault for even realising that game was over. Exactly.
How dare I feel optimism?
Damn you, Jags.
That's it. Mine I said earlier that we all wear CSC t-shirts now. That's because we went through a phase during the O'Neill years of wearing a certain top, and then if we get beat, that was it. That top never came out the wardrobe again. And we were all doing it. We only found out when I changed to a ridiculous one that I bought in something like an Celtic shop somewhere in Ireland. You know, one of these is a Celtic shop, but we haven't told them we've opened it.
Come
and
on.
it was yeah, that kind of thing, yeah. And it's a black top, and it had one white and one green stripe down the left-hand side. Right, I used to wear it to our game, and then I thought, no, I'm chucking that one. And I noticed other people doing exactly the same. We got talking about it. So again, what you've just said, is it my fault? Have I watched it in the wrong pub? Should I have went to that game? And it's good that we're thinking that way, and it's good for the game as a whole.
You want
But
that
I could have
11?
waited
Year
a couple
11
of years
would have been
before it
fine.
happens.
You know,
I
Yeah.
should. I think.
See, we're getting to that age now that if we don't do the 10 in a row now, a couple of years might not ever see it.
We're back to Happy Valley.
I come in at the start of right. I come in 1965. Right, I was 10 years old before I realised that other teams were allowed to win leagues. Right, and then they changed it anyway to accommodate another team. I can't remember them. They went away a while ago, and I'm hoping to kind of go out after seeing the 10, just to restore the natural balance after they had their creative financial accounting thing.
It's called a tax break.
Have you not noticed? Talking of HMRC, they've just appointed somebody that specialises in tax avoidance as the chief HMRC man. It's in Private Eye this week. If you get a chance, have a look at that. It's astonishing. Right, sorry, back to the football.
Aye. I was just thinking actually, I'm getting a wee bit apprehensive. You were saying like when Thistle scored, it was a wee boost and all that. But when Aberdeen came back, it's
no, that was me playing a wee bit of our tune as Ralph was reminiscing of what it used to be. I usually try and have it on standby when we're doing old memory lane.
No, but I think, or rather, I would hope that this is a kind of tipping point, particularly because if it was me that was at Lennoxtown every day, I'd be saying, do you really want to be remembered as the guys that lost the league to that Aberdeen team? Because as much as they're grinding out results and stuff, I've watched them a few times. They're decent. They're not brilliant. They're not playing outstanding free-flowing football. You know, there's nothing really particularly expansive about them. So I would be really hammering home. You know, think of the shame. Think about you've got to be the guys that could scupper this. You know, it's time to really just get a grip, you know, and really take control of this. But is that going to be the message it's put across? I don't know.
Well, the thing is, this semi-final is coming
up.
Is that going to take the worst possible thing when it happens?
Aye.
When was
Scottish Cup semi-final.
When was it announced?
It's incredible. This is the second game we've played this season.
Sorry. Hold the bus. You're trying to tell us the SFA managed to organise a cup draw?
Surely Lubo is still standing there looking at two bits of plastic, thinking, what's going on? I've only got 90.
Here at the semi-final, on the same thing. Two hot balls, two cold balls, and the guy used to take one hot ball out and one cold ball out, and for 2 years in a row now he's picked out the two hot balls. So whoever he is a fool. Yeah, he's probably got a job in their coaching stuff.
If you watch that semi-final draw again, as soon as McGarvey put his hand in, you could actually see him go, "Oh, you bastard, that's roasting."
Andy, were you shocked at the semi-final draw? Because I, for one, I couldn't believe they never tried to get a Celtic Rangers fight to help Rangers in Europe.
Well, I was actually, I've heard from a very good source that the SFA were privately gutted because as the draw came out, it was Rangers first, then Celtic. So apparently they were all doing a high five. You know, there's another home tie, lads, until they realised it was a semi, so it needs to be a Hampden.
I hate Hampden as well. They'll be out the night before digging wee bits.
Well, that's a very good question about the pitch disasters. Every time we're there, there's a pitch disaster. But Celtic and Rangers will be on the Sunday following the first semi-final, which will cut up the pitch. I mean, surely if this is your landmark game, the one everybody's been waiting on, allegedly, according to any media outlet, you would actually try and make sure they were the first team to play on that pitch so they get the pristine surface, or as good as it's going to get.
The Poles prefer us to play that mob on a Sunday.
No, they need to bring it down to their level, don't they? They need to have a chance. What they don't want is Celtic playing football against them, because it's no contest. I don't care what anybody says. They beat Dundee, very good. Dundee had just had a big game. They were all knackered anyway. They're not a good side. They're a bunch of ragtags, for want of a better word.
If we're genuinely looking for advice on how to beat them, then or how to match up to them, then we can always go and have a word with the Alloa management and try to run them close.
Wait, no,
that's the
same old
still the greatest vine ever. Same old Alloa, always cheating.
Always cheating.
So my mum phoned us up. I think it was Monday. She was worried about me because I didn't give her a phone call, because I don't stress spending money on ludicrous things like cards and presents. she rang me up Monday and she says, I was worried about you never rang. I says, no, I'm fine, how are you? Blah blah. She says, oh, the supporters are getting a bit worried about this Rangers game. And I went, oh, for goodness sakes, it's like a Formula One car against a Fiat. It's what's all the fuss about? But the trouble is,
support.
the Celtic support. I can't see for the light. If you look at it in a cold light of day, it's not a contest. It really shouldn't. They shouldn't even be on the same pitch, right? But for some reason, the press are hyping it up, and this is the brave new Rangers. Well, I'm not saying new Rangers, will they? But this is they're really ready to come back and claim their place at and all the nonsense that goes with that. Right? They're not. You couldn't name 5 players at their team. Right? They're moaning now that a couple of their players aren't in the Scotland squads, when nearly everybody else who's ever been to Scotland's been picked. And that's because none of them are any good.
The players aren't in the Scotland squad because they're all bloody English. Jack Charlton couldn't get them in the Scotland.
Kisses the jersey when he scores. Come on, surely that's enough to get into a Scotland squad.
Well, I suppose, and to be fair, Pat Nevin does lift the pen whenever he's talking about how much of an impact Lee Wallace is having there. So he should actually be captain of Scotland when we put it in those terms.
I forgot to say, they're going to be playing with Kenny Miller up front.
Why he'll be back for his penalty. He'll be for then. Penalty attempt.
See, there is that to it, of course. Yeah. There is the honest mistake thing, and like we're all saying, we don't want Craig Thompson. I can still remember I remember the surprise when he gave a penalty when Samaras fell down when we beat them 2-0 at Ibrox. So we need to forget that Ian Paisley's son isn't going to be the referee. Mind you, it might as well bloody be. That's the only thing that can go wrong. We all get sent off, and they get half a dozen penalties. I'll tell you what, go to your bookies, right? And I virtually guarantee after maybe 18 to 22 minutes, it'll be 4-0, right? They won't even be at the races. They will not. It's the biggest hype and nonsense I've ever seen around a football match. And I've seen a few bits of hype.
That's very disrespectful. Very disrespectful.
It's not even a contest. The levels of fitness, I played football once against a team of Fair Boys Brigade down here, right? I was about 24, 25. These kids were 16. There wasn't Oh, really? There wasn't one of these under 6 foot, and there wasn't one of them that could do 100 metres in less than like 12 seconds, right? And that's the difference. It's that team we played that day, or Celtic, and us lot, who turned up in the back of a bloody truck with a cage on it to keep cardboard boxes in, with bottles of Newcastle Brown and cans of Carlin Black Label for a 10 o'clock Sunday kick-off. That's the difference between the two teams.
Right.
There's no chance.
Right, I'll ask you something, Ralph.
Absolutely
Right, because the media have all conveniently forgot that this game's already happened before, and Rangers didn't even have a shot in target when we beat them the last time. Right, so that was fine. But back then, we at least had Lee Griffiths and Chris Commons. Now we've just got Lee Griffiths. We're literally a one-man team.
Mm-hmm.
And other teams have already... No, what I'm still going to say is other teams have already showed if you take League with us out the game, then there's a good chance Celtic will struggle. I'm not saying they'll struggle again, I'm just saying there's a good chance Celtic will struggle if you nullify their one potent threat. Because we don't have a midfield threat at the moment. We don't really have... so it's a case of...
It's a good point, but then you're assuming
and
that
Kenny Waddell was not in charge, because you have got
behind
Magic Hart Warburton in charge, to remember.
For God's sakes. Do you know why he hasn't got a job in England? Because nobody wants him. Do you know why he's not being poached away? Because nobody wants him. Right? That isn't
just
disrespectful.
Waiting on the right opportunity when it opens.
Was it not the case Brentford said to him, even if you get promoted into the Premier League, you're not going to be here? You know, that was my recollection from what I read. That he was told in about February, and it was made public.
Yeah. The club's plan and his
off.
plans are slight diversions. I believe if the press release kind of goes along with, yeah.
Does that mean you just was an absolute banger and we couldn't be bothered with him?
I picked a book up of what I was telling you about it, Desi. That Living on a Volcano, a book about English lower league football management, and it's very, very good. It gives a wee insight into how they work, how they operate. There was a bit in that put me off Brendan Rodgers for life, because what he does, he'll get an 18-year-old boy in who's about to sign him. He'll sit him down and he's got a chart on the wall, which it says 12 times 14 equals. Right? And he says, that's the amount of paychecks you have. That's the amount of money you will earn to look after your family, to look after your children, your parents. This is what you need to do, is earn that money. And I thought, how about just seeing if you can play football? How about winning medals? And it's not. The game down here is different. It's all about income and expenditure and that kind of thing. And the problem you have with Warburton is that he doesn't have anything whatsoever in football to back up his reputation. If he loses heavily to Celtic, that's his career done.
Do you think he's going to get?
It's simple as that.
Do you think he's going to get his £500,000 promotion bonus? I mean, I'm like, I keep hearing about this great big bonus. I'm going, there's absolutely no chance, regardless of how much season book money comes in and how much shareholders are. He'll defer that or do something else for the benefit of the team, no doubt. But I'm like, there's no chance that guy is getting that sort of money. Who would try to kid? When David Weir was playing for Rangers, I remember his wife complaining about his wages. They were that bad. That was back then. So there's no chance of him getting crazy money. No. But I liked how Andy touched on the disrespectful there. Chris Sutton. So Warburton, or how do you pronounce it, Ralph? Warburton. Is that not just down the road for you?
Warburton. It's where the
thing, mate. No, right. So disrespectful, but I sent you a thing, Ralph, the other day when I was I couldn't believe that News Now screen, and it was literally David Provan talking about how Derek McInnes is such a better manager than Ronnie Delia. Frank McGarvey was having a go. Chris Sutton having a go. What is it with in the modern age of Celtic players complaining? The only player we have always in our court is the glorious Tommy Boyd. He's the only guy who ever paint it full perspective.
That's why he'll never get a career in the media, will he? Not when he comes out talking sense. It's ludicrous. Andy Walker, David Provan, Frank McGarvey. One after the other. Chris Sutton, I can't. But John did have a shot at a Warburton a couple of weeks back, and that was maybe just to balance out what he'd said about the Dundee riots a couple of years ago.
Let's take a moment of innocence.
McGarvey, I can understand.
People
I can understand McGarvey.
Dundee that night.
Well, there's nothing else to do in Dundee, is there?
Although
to be fair, that's not fair, because I do enjoy my trips to Tannadice and Dans, because there's a cracking set of pubs up the top of the hill.
Yeah, that's right, at the top of the hill, and you can just roll.
I might see Sacha Baron Cohen getting chucked. What do you call it, Ali G? I minded one game a few years back. I mind him getting chucked out.
Typically.
John Barnes, the reporter.
Those were the days, eh?
Yes.
Good guy,
You're talking about
where were we? See, I can understand him being a wee bit better. He scored the winning goal in the cup final, and I mind seeing him wheel away, and you could see the tears in his eyes. He was sold straight away after as well. So maybe he has got a thing with the club. And you can understand it, maybe not condone it, but you can understand it. Andy Walker's getting the excuse, and neither is Davy Provan. Although again, Provan was ill, wasn't he, for a while?
He's got his gig on Sky now, doing the EPL and that, so he's moved on a level. He's quite happy, Provan. But it's just we will tell you exactly what you want to hear. And sorry,
sorry, for a bit of balance, I think another one who actually comes across as a wee bit reasonable. Anytime we hear Pat Bonner speaking, I think Bonner's pretty fair. I think if it's been crap, he'll say, maybe not use that language, but he'll call it as he sees it, and he'll try and give some kind of insight which doesn't scream, I want to work for a tabloid newspaper, please give me a big page that says, listen to Pat. Because Andy Walker's been on that mission since he got a microphone in front of him. It's just pish after pish after pish with him. Provan I can understand because he's now based mainly in England. English football's his thing. I don't think he's fully aware of it. However, he was another one that went a bit hypercritical. Sometimes I think he's all right. But I'd say in the main, if there's a chance to stick the boot in and get a nice page and a paper that probably most say we don't read.
Yeah, it's about balance, isn't it? Nobody minds a rant, right? If for example, the three of us were sitting in a studio and it was after the Dundee game or after the equivalent, poor performance, and we just ranted and raved, and this is shite, and you're useless, and I'm standing in the front of the bay window, and there's cars going by in the A34 that you can see them. One of them's just pulled over. Because like Father Ted, where he's in front of that window, waving your arms about.
Yeah, I've got a black mark in the window.
It's certainly diminished my reputation amongst the neighbours.
Sorry, I've got a cracking bunch of lads banner that you can have if that helps.
You don't mind a rant. You don't mind somebody coming on. This is why sometimes you disagree with him, and sometimes you think, he's just an idiot. But he's just saying what he thinks. Exactly the same. When you get in the car or you get on the bus after the game, right? Yeah. Sometimes you're not complimentary, and sometimes you just whatever.
He's not getting dropped off by the club's limousine like the rest of us in the main stand. Oh, I'm starting to wonder about this podcast. It's let itself go.
Sorry. Is it
individual limousines. Individual limousines. No, I don't know where with the chopper after that certain day.
We used to have a Terrier carrier now. We'll need to break into the Manchester drugs market. Right. No, but you don't mind somebody having a whinge about it because that's what we do. Right. After the game, we'll moan and we'll scream, and he shouldn't be doing this and they shouldn't be doing that. But effectively, it doesn't matter because we're supporters, we can. And sometimes, perhaps, the likes of Sutton and Hearts, and they used to, you can't fault them for what they've done on the pitch. They would fight for the cause. And perhaps that's what's coming out. And it's just because the media have always been the way they are with us, we perhaps think, that's him, one of them now. And maybe he isn't. Maybe he is just speaking for the heart. Maybe he is just annoyed that we're not winning. So you can give him the benefit of the doubt. Give him another 5 years working with Sky or BT or whoever. Yeah, I might change my mind on that. I've been known to do that.
Paddy Bonner did use the Old Firm tag, Andy. People be looking forward to an Old Firm game, and that's what I was saying on Twitter. Good to see the Irish wit hasn't died with Wogan passing on. I'm willing to give Paddy Bonner the benefit of the doubt. He was just taking the piss there. No, I mean,
exactly. Then or something.
He's been known to take his eye off the ball sometimes. I remember that game. See, I'll not use that phrase anymore. As far as I'm concerned, it's consigned to the dustbin of history. And like I said, I would quite happily have never played them again. I never went through that. I'll tell you
hold on,
a wee story.
hold on.
One time we were walking down London Road.
Aye. Let's get it going.
Put the music on.
Carry on.
Celtic are about to play Rangers, the usual early kick-off, no chance of getting a drink beforehand. So we parked the bus up by the association and we began to walk down London Road. Both sides of the road, green and white flags, green and white scarves, green and white tops. Sun shining, and everything is fantastic about the day. We've seen a couple of Rangers supporters. It was an old fella and his wee boy holding hands, walking down the road. As we've done that, there was a minibus come by, a red one, and there were Rangers supporters in it, banging on the windows, singing about Billy's Boys, whoever they are. I don't know if it's one of the members of the supporters club with a number of songs.
It's a civil rights.
Civil
rights, Rangers, yeah. How did you get that? How did you get that into the same sentence? Never mind a podcast. So these buses went by, but that boy and his boy walking in, all from them, you know what? That's the difference. You were your place walking down the Colton Road, you would get abused, you'd be spat on, whereas they're just on the game. That's the difference between us. That's why I don't listen.
That was lovely, Ralph. Lovely, and they all lived happily ever after. They died. They died. Right, okay, it's getting late now. We won't touch on the semi-final because I think we can come back to that on the next podcast closer to the time. Thanks to you two guys for reminding me. Well, I've got parking space, as you know, and the garden has been repaired since the last time you visited, so you're more than welcome to use the driveway. As long as the Celtic limousine is not in it that weekend, I think you'll be fine.
Well, I say I didn't want to go up, but I miss that sound of holy water being poured on them. That scream when it's going wrong for them.
That's right. I think you got that mixed up because the witch was green and the Elizabeth was, remember?
Sorry, I drank a cigarette at the same time then. Right, no, I'm not looking forward to it, but I need the world to be spinning on its axis, and I need it to be spinning straight, and putting them in the box.
Is it made with a mitre, that box? Is it on the square?
They've inherited the more passionate side of the old Rangers support. You know, the gully billies. And I just want to see them suffer. Just one more time. For old time's sake. That's why the rest of it, there's only two of us going up, I think, at this stage.
What's called wrong?
A lot of them don't want to put in the SFA. A lot of them don't want to be involved with it. The last time we played,
Orbit and asked them to play.
I can just
I come from Central Adrian's Vault. There's a team you can play for.
So no, I'll come up to that one. If you want,
you can do a podcast
right after the game.
I'm sure we could get something sorted. Exactly, we can get something sorted.
But
while you're standing in my living room, let's have a podcast on the phone. Right. Anyway, let's get back to the big Glasgow game, the Glasgow Derby this weekend. Saturday, Touchwood, it's on Sky because I'm working, and I work in that fancy place, Andy, where I can watch the football. My work. Yeah, it does. So are we confident we can get past a team that Aberdeen gubbed 2-1 at the weekend, away from home?
We need to beat them. There's no doubt about that. It's a must-win game, and we don't seem to win many of these must-win games. And again, it goes back to what you were saying. Do we rely on the old guard, or do we let the new boys off the leash? I wouldn't like to be in the situation where I've got to choose. But then again, I'd have more confidence in my man management skills to get the right players on the pitch.
Okay, Andy,
I've not got a great deal of confidence
Hector usually does the Bandito's bets. What's your betting prediction then for Saturday's game? 3-1 first goal scorer?
3-1.
Okay, going for the old class. See, he's gone to see what happened there, Ralph. You see? He went for the old tried and trusted faithful. That's what happens, times of fear.
Never asked me who the other two goals
Well, I'm
were
glad
coming from.
to it'll be Patrick Robertson. See, I can't even remember. I'm trying to think of who else. Lustig and Izaguirre making a return to left back.
Now, there's a player that we should have been relying on a bit more as well this season. You know, when Brown's not there.
Yeah,
When,
he's exactly.
Nico Lustig.
I thought you were talking about Izaguirre. He's never relying on him then Lustig.
Oh, I've got a wee border collie that I've named after Izaguirre, and he was far away my favourite player at Celtic for the last couple of years.
Border collie.
And I'll be gutted to see him leave, actually.
Have you tried much?
Just put the hammer down, it'll be fine.
No, I would be gutted to see him leave. But you know, players move on. We stay the same.
Good stuff. I think we should wrap up here because I've still to edit this and then post it up, so it'll be well after midnight by the time we get finished. So thanks very much to the bloke from Stoke, Ralph Mouth. And right, okay, and this is your virginal hymen has been broken on the podcast. Have you got any special song that you would like me to play as an outro for you, dedicated to your first podcast?
Special song, that's
yep, well, it can be anything at all. We just like to always try and dedicate something to either our guests or the topics covered, but seeing as it's your first podcast, I'll give you the choice, or I will have to make a choice for you. It may be work related, that's all I'm saying, so just be careful. It may be something to do with that tie you're wearing, which looks like Walter Smith's tie.
Okay. You know what, I'm going to leave it in your very incapable hands because I can't think
of course you can.
Can I suggest something?
You can try.
See, one of my favourite tunes, right? I'm going back to last week's game of the week before, right? I don't feel like I've been to the football. I don't feel like I've been to the football unless I've listened to the Lonesome Boatman about 20 times. So we got back for the football last week, which I only kind of vaguely remember. And a couple of lads come in, we had a drink, and I says, right, let's get the old YouTube on the telly. And I put on the Lonesome Boatman, and I slept until Monday morning. So if you could put on the Lonesome Boatman, and then that way people will.
So that's over that podcast. We try and encourage people to drive and listen to it.
I then remembered that George Martin had just died, so I was going to maybe suggest a Beatles song, but you know what? I'm pretty sure George Martin was involved in the production of the Lonesome Boatman. So I'm happy to go with that.
It's alright. I've been doing this for 5 years.
Well, okay, good stuff. Right, guys, thanks. So, Andy, hold on, I just let Simon Bates go. That's him. So, Andy, thanks very much for joining for your first and hopefully not your last podcast. Okay, guys. Well, fingers crossed we can win on Saturday and we can regroup quite soon before this famous semi-final, which the world will be waiting on. Ralph, have we got anything special coming up in tomorrow's diary at all? Resolution number 12 rumours?
I'm just waiting for the resolution 12. No, I'm just waiting for news on it. It's not as bad as it seems, apparently. If you can't trust old heat on this, who can you trust?
Folks, so look out for Ralph's Etims diary every day when he's sober, realistically, which is 350 days a year these days. Yeah.
38 games in a season.
Very well so far. Even the weekends are popping up. Now, see, this also happens, Ralph. See, this is us coming full circle to the apathy point whereby I used to have to say, I can't do a podcast because I'm leaving at 5 in the morning on Saturday and I'm not getting back late, so there might not even be one on Sunday. Now we've almost got a diary guaranteed 7 days a week. You're that bored with Celtic. You know what I mean? So it's basically you're to blame. You're to blame for the club demise.
Do you know what? It's no, that makes it sound like I'm blowing my
I know you're the slogan, but that's ridiculous.
Either I'll say something, right, or or there'll be a comment, and then 5 minutes later you'll see Dialer or somebody say the same, or the team will do it, or something will come out. It's ludicrous. I mean, I know that obviously there's people at the club watching the whole internet thing, And do you know what? Maybe we'll get lucky. Maybe John Park will have to walk round the ground at the next home game wearing a big banner, a big placard that says, I really haven't got a fucking clue.
That Happy Valley note.
When it comes to signing players.
I think we'll leave it tonight. Okay, guys?
I think I've just spotted the bit that you said today.
We like the cussing. We're old school here. None of your namby-pamby tarting it up. Okay, guys, thanks very much for joining. I will take care of this. So, folks, the podcast, as ever, will be on etims.net as well as our podcast site, which you can find, and I can't remember, it's on Spreaker. It's on Spreaker, so look up for that and our podcast there. All right, guys, thanks very much. That's us. Good night.
This piece of music is called The Lonesome Boatman. I want to play it for you on the flute. And I wrote a poem about it. I wrote the piece of music back in 1968. And I wrote a poem about it. I was trying to write words about it actually for a long time. And I finally gave up because I couldn't get the words to fit the melody. Because every time I thought about the melody, I thought about it different. So what I did, I wrote this poem, and I called this poem Silent Annie. This was my sort of imagination of who the Lonesome Boatman was. So I'll do it for you. Oui. I saw which nearly broke my heart. A tramp lay dying in a park. I knelt beside him to hear him speak. The words he spoke, they were oh so weak. He told me a story of long since past, of his sailing ship with its long grey mast, of his captain's cap with its shining braid, and the wonderful voyages that he made. Silent Annie was his great ship's name. Like a token of love, he spoke her name. She sailed round the Horn, aye more than once. She could cut through the waves like a sharpened lance. Believe me, he said, his eyes filled with tears, like a drunk on a corner trying to remember his years. He reached out his hand, and I took it in mine. I believe you, I said, and he gave a sad smile. I remember the day when they towed her away, her sides to her sore from the sea's angered spray. They said she's unfit for the sail out once more, and they towed her more inward from her own sandy shore. And as he broke my Silent Annie, I watched with a sigh. I remembered her beauty when I was a boy. She was my one love, my life's only dream, when we sailed out together as captain and queen. It started to drizzle, and I felt my hand tight, and he squeezed even harder as he ended the fight. And the crowd they had gathered, and he watched with dismay as the Mamless men came and they took him away. So I got to my feet and I walked through that park. The sun, it was gone, but it was not yet dark. My body was wet, my clothes were not many, but my mind was aroused by his ship, Silent Annie. Lonesome Boatman. Thank you.
Do you know what?
What,
Many
what?
years ago, right? They all came to pick us up because I was out. I was out the night before, and they all came to pick us up for the bus, and I thought it was burglars, right? I heard this noise down the stair, and of course I don't sleep with any clothes on, and I come running down the stair, and the bay window hadn't got the blinds down, and I stood in front of the bay window wondering what was going on, and the entire Lennon CSC stood outside waiting for me.
Well, I
Which
think
frightened
that
the
if
young
I leave
girls
this
that
in
was
the
on there as
podcast,
well.
it'll frighten quite a few grown men. See you later.
Oh, yeah,
Bye bye.
I should have bought a terrace. Right, see you now. Bye.